All right, all
All
you
right.
not normals. We got Walker Richardson, we got Ben Richardson here, founder not normal. Got a great episode for you today. A couple topics here that are going to be kind of all over the place, but I really want to start out with this quote by Vincent van Gogh. Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow.
That's a cool idea.
What do you take from it?
I was just thinking about this when I was in the Tetons. We were on the regular trail going up
Yep.
to the Grand or lake right by it, which is the
You
biggest peak
you were in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and
on the
visited.
Wyoming side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were hiking on the trail, and there's a lake that you can get to like within a mile or maybe 2 miles. So that's like where all the non-hikers go
Yeah.
because it's the easiest view you can get. We got to that, and then it's just like really dusty, and everyone had allergies because it's like super tramped down.
Right.
But super pretty lake. But then we saw a little game trail going up the mountain along a ridge. And so we got off the main trail and started walking that. And it was just so much prettier. We got like within 10 feet of a moose, like we spooked it. And like you're right, there's flowers everywhere. And like it was, yeah. So it's much better going on the less traveled path. And it was also a harder trail to do.
Well, that's just perfect
Yep.
experience from this weekend for this quote.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting concept because I guess, being on that other trail is not necessarily negative, but there's no flowers grow there. Like there's less to see and experience because it's trodden down.
Yeah.
Everybody's on that road. There's a lot more beauty and excitement to be found on these paths that are a little less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, that's cool. You had an experience to share from just this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I was thinking about this, like, if normality is the paved road, like, what is normality? And how might we describe that? What comes to mind for you?
I just think of the things that are done most often. So, like a regular job is normality. Maybe even regular interests is normality.
Well, it kind of, there's lots of areas of this, lots of disciplines of normality, but for thinking of people your age, there's a lot of kids kind of rudderless, I would say, right now. Like, there's a lot of changes happening. The path forward is not as certain. And so they're kind of in a place of like limbo. No skills have been developed yet. The opposite of that would be like developing high value real world skills. And we'll come back to that one because I think that's maybe one of the most important pieces of this equation that helps you not feel stuck or normal, like you're just confined to that well-worn path that has boundaries all over it. They might feel aimless instead of having direction, hopeless instead of hope and optimism. Without a clear direction or lacking a vision instead of a clear vision of your destination and where you're going. And like, if we go back to that quote, normality is comfortable. So that's just like the path of least resistance. So it's the paved road, it's the wide road, it's the
Main ski run.
the main blue run. And I think that there is an issue of like, if you're doing stuff just to be different, that has its own dangers and risks. Sometimes
Yeah.
there are times when that makes sense, but there is some excitement and interesting things to find off the beaten path or
Yeah.
not road. So if we relate this back to like normal's the path of least resistance. So not normal is you have to say,
More resistance.
yeah, you have to say that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's a good point.
yeah, like going back to your analogy of the hiking trail, it literally was harder, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I found a couple graphics of this. Like if you're taking a road that's a little bit harder every day, you're increasing your capacity for that effort and ability to handle it. So you're either physically or mentally getting stronger or socially getting stronger, right?
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen a curve or someone like, oh, if you just get 1% better every day, what would that do for you? It doesn't sound like much, right? Like each individual decision is not that different. But I pulled up one chart and one little video I want to share that I think are really, really cool.
Well, it happens small until it happens big. The reinvention occurs in the micro actions that you're taking every single day. The tiny little things that perhaps no one even notices that are creating muscle memory around new behaviors. Tiny little things repeated over time is what produces dramatic change. And it's like this curve, it's like this very slow curve. And everyone wants to talk about the pivot moment when it goes skyward. But the truth is, the real work is in the drudgery.
Correct.
And the difficult, anonymous work of shoveling shit every single day. In sobriety, they say, don't leave before the miracle. And I take that as a lesson in persistence. Whatever it is that you're pursuing to achieve or create or express in the world, I think a lot of people back out before that happened.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, he's describing a little bit of work, a little bit of improvement every day. And so if you don't have support around you, or like experience, or like guidance, or someone to look to, or someone to do it with, sometimes you can get discouraged and give up.
Was there a cycling team you were telling me about that adapted the 1% better every day and did very well?
Yeah, they changed cycling, and I'll give you the short summary of that. It was the Team Sky. It was a British team, and they kind of systematized the approach to training and performance in a way that had never been done before. And they really attacked it from incremental improvements. If everyone is pretty fast already in the cycling race and you win by inches or seconds or minutes, if you just can build up incremental gains in different areas, then mathematically you're going to have better results. But none of them are that interesting, like not that groundbreaking. So they would do things like, it's my understanding, they even, bring their own mattresses or pillows into the hotels that they sleep in. Instead of the crappy hotel mattresses, they would change it out with their own.
Wow.
Okay, that's just one thing. That's a lot of work, but most people probably wouldn't go through that work, and they would just deal with it because it's a race and it's hard. They dialed in the nutrition, and they had their own chefs, which a lot of teams do, but just incremental, minuscule gains, just working on the aerodynamics of the bike, aerodynamics of the clothing, weight of the cyclists. So you have power to weight ratio is super important if you're going up. Everyone can have the same power, but if you have 5 pounds more weight, it's slower. So that leads to extremes. And so you have the whole peloton or group of cyclists now are just emaciated, and it's like their bones are thinner and lighter like a bird. And this is just speculation, but there's a lot of crashes these days, and a lot more people seem to be breaking bones.
Oh,
I don't know. Probably help you go uphill, but it won't help you in the impact if you don't have any muscle or bone density. Yeah, so the Team Sky, they changed cycling, and they were pursuing incremental gains. They became the most dominant team for like 8 years, and they're one of the top riders, won the tour like 4 times, and they're just untouchable. Yeah, so that they really embodied this concept. I'll show you a chart here of what that graph looks like. 1% better each day. It's astounding, actually. Okay, so this is a mathematical chart. On the y-axis, you have improvement or decline, and on the x-axis, you have time. So this is not plotted mathematically, but the answer is solved mathematically. So you can see if you're getting 1% better every day, you get just a little bit better. In the beginning, it looks like nothing, like your mattresses are in your hotel room. It doesn't matter that you have the right food, because you can handle different types of food, but if you're not optimizing nutrition on the bike, especially on the bike and off the bike, it doesn't look any different. But eventually 1% over time is compounding, right? Mathematical, it's exponential, even though it's a low exponent. At the end of the year, I'm gonna just read this is James Clear. I thought it was a great paragraph. In the beginning, there's no difference between making a choice that is 1% better or 1% worse. That's true. In other words, it won't impact you very much today, but as time goes on, the small improvements or declines compound, and you suddenly find a very big gap between people who make slightly better decisions on a daily basis and those who don't. Here's the punchline. If you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Dude, you wouldn't expect.
Pretty insane.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that result.
1% per day for only 1 year? That's actually crazy.
So, like, what area of life could you apply that to that would really start compounding like that? Lots of areas of life.
You could throw that down pretty much anywhere. Your health, your productivity in your work, your relationships with people, your speech skills, your communication skills, your attentiveness to detail and things.
What if you're reading, okay, maybe you can't read a book a week or a book a day, but you can read 20% of a book a day.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, you will be so much more fed with so much more knowledge compared to maybe just absorbing the worst of the worst, like TikTok, for the same amount of time. You're literally getting dumber, or you're literally getting fed and stronger and smarter and more wise. You take the same thing with food. You could be eating nutritious food or the worst of the worst, and you will definitely look different at the end of the year.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know what it is with muscle atrophy, but just being active with your muscles keeps them on your body. You can super stress them like you do if you're going for gains and weightlifting. Yeah. So what are you hearing? What do you talk, kind of related to the quote, related to this idea of the path of least resistance and this path of more resistance.
I think one takeaway would be that we're shooting for long-term gains, because evidently we're taking a path that's harder in the immediate with the foresight that down the road it's exponentially better. That's the idea, right?
So you took a slightly different tack there, which is interesting. Like you could play a shorter term game for immediate gains, but won't compound on itself to give you a better long-term result.
We're talking about it's less comfortable now, which is a short-term loss, I guess, maybe not a gain, but evidently it turns into a long-term gain.
Well, you could make short-term gains by being dishonest or pumping your performance with drugs, let's just say. But I guess that's not taking the path of more resistance. You're taking the path of even less resistance. So I guess you get the natural consequences, don't you? What is the lesson? How do we summarize this? The path of least resistance is frequently not the best choice. Well, it's almost never the right choice. Think about it in fitness.
Yeah, true.
Path of least resistance leads to atrophy. Path of least resistance in food leads to disease. Path of least resistance in consumption, mentally, and education leads to ignorance, brain rot. Yeah, so the path of least resistance is almost never the right choice.
Yeah.
If that's the normal path, then it's almost never the right choice to do the normal thing.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah. So, all you not normals out there who are inspired to take the path of more resistance, path of growth, and you want to do it with people who can inspire you to jump that paved path and get on the trail with Walker and chase moose around in the alpine fields.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, get the newsletter, get the magazine, it's free, and I think you'll enjoy it here.